And by not taking it on an expedited basis, sort of taking it under regular order here, they've already created a significant delay here that means that this election case, however they rule, can't go to trial probably before the fall. And now we come to exactly what they're considering here, which is the question of whether a president has absolute immunity. And then there's a second question here, which is whether anything that Donald Trump is accused of would actually constitute a presidential act implicated in the immunity question.
Just making sure you're okay. Is everything okay? We hear someone yelling.
Yeah, it's fine. We have a heckler here outside.
I've got to say, they obviously have been following the David Pecker testimony. They're yelling fake news, and they obviously want viewers to know that Donald Trump lied about JFK's assassination, tried to blame Ted Cruz. He's yelling fake news also because Donald Trump lied along with David Pecker. They worked together to lie about Ben Carson, to lie about Hillary Clinton. Fake news all around. So I want to thank him for actually
framing it
for us. We want to make sure you're okay, but also we want everybody watching to know that person screaming fake news, obviously talking about all the lies that Donald Trump perpetrated about Hillary Clinton and all of his opponents in 2020. Go ahead.
They're so livid. They're so angry. They're so upset. They are. That was Joe Scarborough, literally frothing at the mouth. Did you hear what he said? That Trump blamed Ted Cruz for Kennedy's assassination? He blamed Ted Cruz for his assassination. He actually accused Trump of lying about Hillary. Let that hit you. I mean, that's the straw grasping that he's been resigned to. He's lowered himself to. He's so livid. He's so livid about what happened yesterday that the only thing that comes out of those frothed lips is that Trump was lying about Hillary Clinton. You know, the woman who fabricated a fake Russian dossier against Trump that sent Scarborough's own network, MSNBC, into a 24/7 feeding frenzy for 3 years, costing taxpayers tens of millions of dollars, and it all turned out to be a total and complete fraud. They are so angry about what happened yesterday at the Supreme Court that nuts, ideological nuts like Scarborough can't even begin to think straight. And the beauty is he's not alone. We're going to see what the left-wing activists disguised as journalists are admitting this morning after that disastrous Supreme Court hearing yesterday. Let's just sum it up for you. I'll make it easy for you. It's over. Jack Smith has lost. Greetings, everyone. It is Livestream Friday. I am your host, Dr. Steve, your Patriot Professor, here to help you stay sane. I'll even try to help Joe Scarborough stay sane during these insane times. So make sure to smack that bell and subscribe button. This is a special Livestream Friday, not just because of the amount of liberal tears that are being shed over the disastrous Supreme Court hearing yesterday, but because this week we have been rolling out our brand new Turley Talks app, our very own platform that can never, ever, ever be canceled. We built this private platform in response to the news that YouTube has, yes, once again, demonetized us for a second time in a row. We complied with absolutely everything they required of us in the first demonetization. And unfortunately, when we reapplied, they moved the goalposts. They came up with an entirely
the undecided voters were also asked how.
Can you shut that down? The insane times. They moved the goalposts. They came up with an entirely new infraction to keep us completely demonetized for the foreseeable future. According to Google and YouTube, our channel now features, quote, harmful content. We are now being demonetized because we feature, quote, harmful content. That's not what they told us 4 months ago. Our videos now, they moved the goalposts. They found another infraction to slap us with. Our channel apparently now is harmful to YouTube's audience, and we've been cut off from any and all monetization completely. No monetization. You're not even going to see super chats loaded up. But what these big tech tyrants did not know when they were canceling us is that we've been preparing for a moment just like this for the last several months. We are calling it our ARC, our brand new Turley Talks app. It's a beautiful personal app that you can download completely free, as well as join one of our levels of support to help us financially during this difficult time. So just click on that link below or go to fight.turleytalks.com. That's fight.turleytalks.com. Make an account, download your app, and after you make your account, check your inbox for a special welcome where you can read and sign our Declaration of Restoration. That's the petition to big tech that you can sign, you can put your signature on, that informs these tech tyrants that a new day is dawned. They are no longer in control, and we are taking our nation back. As of now, there are over 1,000 signatures on that petition, on that Declaration of Restoration, and we've had over 6,500 downloads. It's so awesome. Last night when we started our live stream, our special Thursday night live stream, we were just at the cusp of 5,000 downloads. We've now passed 6,500, and as we speak, our Turley Talks app is now in the top 200 of all entertainment apps. And you made that happen. So a huge shout out to all of you. And like we've been doing all week, we got some free giveaways for you. We're so appreciative of you coming to our rescue and helping us and downloading this app. We got a free giveaway. We're calling it Office Hours with Dr. Steve. One of you will be selected at random. We got a digitalized randomizer. You'll see it's really cool. Nice wheel. And one of you will be selected to have a virtual call one-on-one with me. But you got to stick around for when your name is called. We're going to be calling a couple of times during this live stream. So when I take your attendance to see if you're here, you're going to be able to claim your prize. All right. So you got to stick around. So download that app right now. It's a completely free download. You don't even need a smartphone. It works on your computer, your iPad, whatever electronic device you got. Download it now by clicking on the link below or going to fight.turleytalks.com. That is fight.turleytalks.com, and make a free account just by filling out all the information. Well, by the way, when you do the username, I didn't know this. Don't put any space in there. I did Steve space Turley. Don't do a space there. Do a dash, whatever. They're not allowed to have spaces in your username. Didn't know. All right. So I got rejected the first time. So, and if you do have a problem, just send an email to support@turleytalks.com. That's support@turleytalks.com. Remember, for everyone who downloads the app today, we're going to draw from the names of all of you who downloaded the app. I'm going to try to talk to them. I've had so many of these live streams here. We're going to download that app. Every one of you who downloads that app, we are going to draw from those names to see who has a one-on-one virtual call with me, your Patriot Professor. And let us know in the comments below, whether, or by the side in the chat, whether or not you downloaded the app and what you think of it. Also, you may have noticed this beautiful bell that we had specially made for this launch of the app this week. The bell is an ancient biblical symbol of freedom. It's the sound of freedom and independence and liberty. And for those of you who sign up for one of our levels of support, one of our tiers, that's also how you can ask me questions, since our super chats have been disabled. But at the end here, I'm going to give you a big shout out. I'm going to announce your name and ring the bell on your behalf in honor of you coming to our rescue and standing in defiance of tech tyranny. All right, gang, let's dive right in here. The left-wing activists disguised as journalists over at Politico are officially throwing in the towel on the Jack Smith trial happening, ever coming to happen before November, which means, of course, that the other trials will be pushed past November as well. Here's how the piece starts. Quote, "The already slim likelihood that Donald Trump will face a criminal trial brought by special counsel Jack Smith before the 2024 election appeared to dwindle further Thursday in the face of withering scrutiny from the Supreme Court's conservative majority." And you know what they wanted to put after that? They wanted to put, darn it. The chances of this happening before November are slim to none. Darn it. One by one, the court's 6 Republican-appointed judges, including 3 nominated by Trump himself, took whacks at Smith's effort to quickly and cleanly reject Trump's claim of immunity from criminal prosecution over his attempt to subvert the 2020 election. Stop. Stop. What is it with these woke activists disguised as journalists? Doesn't he mean Trump's alleged attempt to subvert the 2020 election? I had to read this twice. The Supremes took whacks at Smith's effort to quickly and cleanly reject Trump's claim of immunity from criminal prosecution over his attempt to subvert the 2020 election. Don't they mean alleged? His alleged attempt to subvert the 2020 election? This is so bizarre. I mean, it really is. I talked about this in last night's live stream. It is so surreal reading pieces by so-called legal experts, legal commentators, who deny Trump the fundamental foundation of our legal system, which is the presumption of innocence. Again, I'm literally gobsmacked, as you say across the pond. I'm gobsmacked that so-called legal experts presume Trump guilty before proven innocent. They've already tried and convicted him. There is more Mao than Matlock with them. How's that for an alliteration, right? But I digress. Continuing here with the piece. Instead, during more than 2.5 hours of oral argument, the justices forecast a result that could require lower courts to spend months analyzing various aspects of Trump's election plot. Where's that alleged? From organizing fraudulent slates of electors to leaning on his Justice Department to sow false doubts about the results. Alleged, right? This is the all too characteristic presumed guilt coming through. Left-wing activists disguised as objective journalists. That's why I call them that. The purpose of those additional lower court proceedings, several conservative justices suggested, would be to determine if some of the acts alleged, he finally said it, thank you, some of the acts alleged in the special counsel's indictment count as sufficiently official presidential duties that they ought to be shielded from criminal charges. Even if Smith were to win every single one of those battles, it would virtually ensure that a trial could not possibly happen until after the election. The trial in this case was initially scheduled to begin in March of this year, but the proceedings in the trial court have been frozen for months while Trump has pursued his claim that he enjoys absolute immunity from any charges touching on his official acts. Who the heck? Oh, it's Ralph. Dude, I mean, come on. It's an inside joke here, gang. Yeah, that's, by the way, what they just said there is that's not quite right. Again, we talked about this last night when analyzing the Supreme Court justices' concerns. Trump is emphatically not arguing that he can do whatever he wants, that's what presidential immunity means. He could run around literally like shooting and maiming and killing anybody he wants. And as long as he's president, he could just stand there and say, yeah, you can't touch me. That's not what anyone is arguing. This is not emphatically the Trump team's argument. Presidential immunity, the presidential immunity that Trump's team is arguing for, simply states that criminal prosecution of a former president must be predicated on impeachment and conviction. Impeachment in the House, conviction in the Senate. That is the constitutionally prescribed procedure for holding a president accountable for his actions while in office. If he is not being held accountable to your liking, then you need to mobilize and vote in a new Congress. Otherwise, if criminal prosecution is not based on congressional impeachment and conviction, then every single subsequent president from here on in will be swamped with indictments after he leaves office. The law will now be permanently weaponized against every single president like it is in a banana republic. Trump himself said it. If I don't got immunity, neither does Biden. So when I come in, look out, right? That's exactly what Gorsuch and Kavanaugh and Alito and Thomas and Roberts were so clearly concerned here. They kept pressing Jack Smith's representative. And again, this is something that Politico won't ever tell you. They're so embarrassed by how blatantly they got caught in their weaponized legalism. They won't even tell you this. Those justices kept pressing Jack Smith's representative, his lawyer. What on earth is your guarantee, your safeguard against the weaponization of the law against future presidents if it is not the constitutionally prescribed process and procedure of impeachment and conviction? And of course, Jack Smith's counsel had no coherent answer for that. You know what he actually said, in effect? Well, because we've got the right lawyers. We've got the right lawyers. We've got the attorney. We got the right attorney generals. And of course, it's like, dude, did you just see what happened in Arizona? Now they're suing the lawyers. Oh, we got the right lawyers. Oh, you got the right lawyers. Oh, good. We'll hang them too. Smith's counsel had no coherent answer for that because there is none. Without the objective standard of prior congressional impeachment and conviction, post-presidential prosecution will be used as a weapon against every single subsequent president from here on in. Every president from now on will be sued multiple times. This is about maintaining the integrity of the executive office that it looks like the Democrats are hell-bent on destroying. Regardless, the wacko leftists over at Politico are clearly throwing the towel in here. Whatever the justices ultimately decide, they're admitting this. Whatever the Supreme Court justices ultimately decide, and that decision may not be given till June, the lower courts will be spending months resolving the issues and questions that the justices are going to put before them. And every single one of those decisions is appealable to the Supremes. Every one, because it bears directly with their ruling on this. So there is no way this is happening before November. And Politico's not alone in their despondency. The LA Times now is throwing in the towel. They're recognizing the Democrats' lawfare against Trump is kaput. It's over. Here's a highlight from their admission. Quote, "It got worse for the prosecution, more or less out of nowhere. Justice Brett Kavanaugh suggested that one of the charges against Trump," I love that, more or less out of nowhere. Don't you love that? Who would ever think this way, right? Justice Brett Kavanaugh suggested that one of the charges against Trump, conspiracy to defraud the United States, actually relies on a statute that's so broad and vague that it could be misused by future prosecutors against future presidents. Justice Samuel Alito jumped in to second the suggestion, taking up the criticism of the prosecution that Trump's lawyers hadn't even raised. They didn't have to raise it. It's just, this is a can of worms you open up when you try to basically destroy the presidency. Since the court just heard arguments in a separate case that could invalidate 2 of the 4 charges against Trump, those under a federal obstruction statute, an opinion invalidating another charge could force Smith to soldier on with only one remaining charge against Trump, conspiracy against rights. That charge relies on the electorate's right to have votes counted, which is a somewhat indirect approach to accountability for Trump's pernicious post-election conduct. They are so freaking livid. I mean, the towel is just, dude, the towel's just being thrown in, gang. I mean, they're basically admitting defeat here. Just like Scarborough, they're frothing at the mouth. They're getting their last insults in. They're weeping and gnashing their teeth because their blatant and deliberate attempt at thwarting the democratic process through their pathetic lawfare has just been dealt its most severe blow. Now, there's a lesson here in all of this, and I want us to take it to heart here, okay? I'm going to share with you what I think is perhaps the single biggest takeaway from all of this, and quite frankly, it could be a life changer. But first, gang, if you are just joining us, we are rolling out this week our very own platform that can never, ever be canceled. It's a beautiful personal app that you can download completely free, as well as join one of our levels of support to help us out financially. And by the way, that's how you can ask me your questions in this live stream. Since YouTube has disabled our super chats, just click on the link below or go to fight.turleytalks.com. That's fight.turleytalks.com. Join any level of monthly support and you'll automatically be enrolled in our Insiders Club. And that's where you have access to our backstage virtual platform where you can ask me your questions. I'll be happy to answer them on this live stream. Also, everybody who downloads the app today, you're going to be entered into a special drawing where you're going to have office hours with Dr. Steve. We're going to draw some random names here today, so stick around. You got to be there to claim your prize, or if someone else is going to get it. So we're going to draw some random names. And if your name is drawn, you're going to have some time with me one-on-one online. We can talk about whatever you like. I'm sure it'll be enriching indeed. It'll be a pleasure to meet you. So make sure to stay tuned for that. Also, on Thursday of this week, just yesterday, Ross Givens and I held a free training where thousands of you attended, but we ran out of room. It was crazy how many people registered, and it was just great to see all those who came. Ross is an insider trading expert whose recommendations have led to investment returns of over 200%. Some have hit as high as nearly 1,500% because he actually uses the exact same techniques that Nancy Pelosi does, but perfectly ethically and legally. Now, because of the great success of that training yesterday, Ross has graciously decided to offer another free training tomorrow, Saturday, April 27th at 11 a.m. Eastern. You're not going to want to miss out on this once-in-a-lifetime free training to learn how you too can learn how to trade like Pelosi, but legally and ethically. So click on that link in the description to register today. All right, gang. Larry Schweikart, the great Larry Schweikart, had a great Twitter thread, or I guess I should call it X thread. It came out just the other day. I think it was last night, that I really think embodies what this channel, Turley Talks, is all about. He said it better than I could, as he normally does. He's brilliant. But check this out. I think this is a very, very good lesson for us all to take heart. This is the major takeaway from what happened this week that I want to share with you. Quote, "The last week is an object lesson in why we can never allow ourselves to react too emotionally to this news or that crisis." Just over a week ago, so we're talking, last weekend and so forth, just over a week ago, the biggest concerns were that Mike Johnson allowed a Ukraine funding bill to go through, that Rutabaga, Larry has the funniest nicknames for all the ridiculous characters in our current kabuki theater or political theater. So Rutabaga is Biden, okay? Rutabaga seemed to have experienced something of a pole bounce, that the Arizona Supreme Court had upheld the 1864 abortion law, which would tilt Arizona blue with abortion activists, and that the judge was chaining President Trump to his New York courtroom seat. What a difference a week makes. New polling shows that Rutabaga, Biden, has lost ground, especially in swing states, that the Arizona legislature repealed the 1864 law, making the previously passed and far less incendiary 2022 bill the law of the state, thus throwing cold water on the abortion nuts and returning Arizona to a solid leans Trump position, as well as firming up somewhat down ticket seats. And the imprisonment in New York Kabul, or New Kabul as he calls it, that's New York, is working in President Trump's favor as he now mobilizes rallies there. That's what we talked about in yesterday's video. The insanity of the Chris Mayonnaise indictment, that's Chris Mays, the corrupt attorney general of Arizona. The indictment of Trump's alternative electors has been swamped by new voter registration stats showing that the Republicans in Arizona have now doubled the lead they had over Democrats in 2020 to almost 250,000, 250,000. By all accounts, lib and conservative, the Supremes, the soups as they call them, sent clear messages that they would find in favor of President Trump's immunity argument. Meanwhile, though not good news, politically speaking, the latest round of dismal economic indicators further pushes the undecideds to President Trump. In short, it pays to keep a steady keel. This is his takeaway here. It pays to keep a steady keel, or what we like to say, keep a long-range view of what's happening. Don't get swept up in the hour-to-hour or 24/7 news cycle. Keep a long-range view. Focus on the trends. Where are they going, right? It pays to keep a steady keel. Don't get caught up in the end-of-the-world scenarios, and don't get too hyped about temporary victories. As Jesus said, today has enough trouble of its own than to worry about tomorrow. That is the great Larry Schweikert. Follow him on X. Now, what he said about Arizona there is absolutely spot on. I mean, take a look at these voter registration stats, gang. I mean, statewide, this is astonishing. Statewide, Republicans have gone from a plus 130,000 voter advantage over Democrats to now a near plus 250,000, 243,000 advantage. They basically doubled their advantage over Democrats in a matter of 4 years. Now, keep in mind, Biden, quote, won Arizona by just 10,000 votes. We now have double the voter advantage that we had in 2020. We now have double the voter advantage that we had back when Biden won Arizona by 10,000 votes. And that voter advantage, I would argue, needs to be absolutely harnessed. We've been talking a lot about this lately. As I understand it, Arizona has very strict, but they do allow ballot harvesting laws that allow only designated, accredited officials to collect and drop off ballot boxes. And according to Scott Pressler's analysis, Scott, as many of you know, is an amazing get out the vote Republican activist. But according to Scott's data, if Republicans had utilized in-person early voting and mail-in voting in Arizona in the same way that they did, for example, in Florida, where we saw a red tsunami with Ron DeSantis and Republican supermajorities in their legislatures, then Kari Lake would almost certainly be governor today. Almost certainly, right? Republicans in Arizona, as well as in Pennsylvania and Wisconsin and Michigan, they are going to have to launch an all-out effort at tapping into what are called low propensity voters, right? I want that term to just sear into your memory here. Low propensity voters. They are these are voters that just simply, they haven't come out to vote, I think, in either 20 or 2022. You are going to have to reach them. They're not coming out for you by definition. You're going to have to reach them, and reach them by strategically utilizing mail-ins and ballot harvesting for precisely these low propensity voters. And the problem here is, I'm going to show you this survey. This very interesting survey here on low propensity voters. So these are voters who didn't put the survey up, guys. These are voters who did not vote in 2020 or 2022. Look at the advantage that Trump has with these low propensity voters. He's got a 22-point lead with them. When asked, who would you pick? It's Trump all the way. That is a massive, unassailable lead. These voters are there for the taking. Just tapping into them alone would give us Arizona, give us Georgia, give us Wisconsin and Michigan and Pennsylvania, right? Any strategy that figures out how to engage those voters who are not engaged virtually guarantees Trump's victory in that state. So it's absolutely crucial that the Republicans get their early voting A game on, precisely because these low propensity voters who are overwhelmingly prone to vote Trump are by definition not reliable election day voters. So these are the voters, these are the voters that you have to make sure end up casting their ballots by mail or through ballot harvesting centers like evangelical churches or gun shows or wherever patriots tend to frequent. You got to deliberately collect or send out a massive, massive number of early votes from these low propensity voters who overwhelmingly back Trump. And if we do that, then our high propensity voter, which the Republicans have en masse, by the way, Republicans love to vote. Those traditional Republicans, our traditional Republican base, they love to vote. We have a huge advantage when it comes to election day turnout, almost every election. The high propensity voter will then absolutely crush whatever small advantage the Democrats have in early mail-in voting. And Trump will become the 47th president of these United States. So Republicans are going to have to get their mail-in ballot game on big time. Okay. Fortunately, Scott Pressler is in Pennsylvania. We talked about EVA, early vote action. They're ready to absolutely crush it with mail-in voting, and that's going to make all the difference. But when it comes down to voter registration, Republicans are absolutely crushing it now, not just in Arizona. Take a look at Pennsylvania, by the way. This is huge, too. This is crazy. We've been following this as well. Remember, Democrats had a million voter advantage in 2012. Democrats are up over Republicans in terms of voter registration by 1 million back in 2012, right? Just 12 years ago. 1 million voter advantage. That advantage has basically been wiped out. Republicans have gained in voter registration, get this, in every single one of Pennsylvania's 67 counties. Every single one. They've cut the Democratic registration advantage from 2020 in half. And remember, in both 2016 and 2020, a lot of those Democrats voted Trump. County after county after county of white working class voters who voted Democrat in every single election since the 1980s defected and voted Trump. And they're poised to do it again. So that's why, I mean, seriously, look at this, gang. When you average out, this is why, this is what's going on here. When you average out the last 41 polls of Pennsylvania, Trump leads Biden by nearly a point. We've never seen that before. This is literally unprecedented. When you averaged out the last 41 polls taken in Pennsylvania, 41 from all different outlets with all their different methodologies, with all their different sampling and their different weighting systems, Trump is in the lead. Now, again, just to put that in perspective, back in 2020, Trump never had the polling aggregate lead in Pennsylvania. He led in a poll here and a poll there, but he never led in the polling aggregate. Biden led by double that. He led by nearly 2 points. And even in 2016, when Trump won Pennsylvania, and I think he won it back in 2020, of course, except for those 80,000 votes they found in the middle of the night, he was down to Hillary as well by 2 points. So the point is, we've never seen a situation where you can average out 41 freaking polls in Pennsylvania and find Trump in the lead. In other words, Trump is better positioned to win Pennsylvania in 2024 than he was either in 2020 or 2016. So to wrap this all up, if these swing state polls are any indicator, if the voter registration trends are any indicator, if the ad hoc Trump rallies in downtown Manhattan are any indicator, and if what transpired yesterday at the Supreme Court is any indicator, gang, the liberal tears are just getting started. Over to you. Remember, make sure to download our beautiful brand new app by clicking on that link below or going to fight.turleytalks.com. It's a beautiful personal app that you can download completely free, as well as join one of our levels of support to help us out financially. As you know, YouTube has demonetized us for a second time in a row. They are hitting us. We are taking basically $1 million hit from YouTube, and we have a staff of 30. So this is a blow to us. So we can really use your help in signing up for any one of those levels of support. If you sign up for any one, you can ask me. You're automatically registered into our Insiders Club. So as an Insiders Club member, you have access to our backstage virtual platform where you can ask me any question you like. I will be happy to answer it here, since, of course, our super chats have been disabled by YouTube. Also, we got a free giveaway. We're calling it Office Hours with Dr. Steve. For everyone who downloads the app today, one of you will be selected at random. We've got a digitalized randomizer here. One of you will be selected to have a virtual call with me, one-on-one. But you got to stick around for when your name is called, when I take attendance, to claim your prize as well. So download that app right now. Also, one final invitation there. On Thursday of this week, Ross Givens and I held a free training where thousands of you attended. but we ran out of room. It was a special training to learn how to trade like Pelosi, but legally and ethically. Ross is an insider trading expert whose recommendations have led to investment returns of like 200%. Some have hit as 1,500% because he actually uses the same techniques that crooked politicians use. But again, legally and ethically, there's an SEC database that he taps into that's public that anybody can see, but hardly anyone knows about. Because of the great success of that training yesterday, Ross has graciously decided to offer another free training tomorrow, Saturday, April 27th at 11 a.m. You're not going to want to miss out on this once-in-a-lifetime free training to learn how you two could trade like freaking Pelosi, but legally and ethically. No one's bribing us. So click the link in the description to register today. All right, over to you. What questions do you have? What questions? And then I'd be curious to see, gang, talking to my staff here, how many downloads we have thus far. We started off with 6,500. I want to keep that going. Terry Hurlbut, why does Eric Woods Erickson predict that Trump will lose 9-0 in SCOTUS and win only by running out the clock? I don't know. I don't know where. I just don't know enough about Eric Erickson. I mean, I know he's radically anti. I mean, he is vicious, as I understand from what I've seen, the comments that I've seen online. He is viciously anti-Trump. So I just don't know. I don't know. I think if he may be right, he may be right. If he is right, then the presidency has been shattered. The nation is basically done at that point. I think the presidency is shattered, and every single president now will face jail time and lawsuits for anything and everything. Once you've weaponized the law, you have no safeguards. Once you've weaponized the law itself is no longer a safeguard. So I don't know what he expects to be the safeguard from lawfare being imposed on every president from this point forward, right? Integrity? I don't know. So I don't know where he's coming from. He's certainly going against the vast majority of even left-wing commentary at this point. We are grabbing those numbers, I'm being told. Browning Man, 212. Dr. Turley, is there any way we can revive justice for all in America? Again, yes. Yes. Yes, this is hard. Yes, this is difficult. Yes, we are going through a very real societal implosion. But you have to see the implosion as a rotting compost. It's not an implosion into dust. It's an implosion that is rotting into compost that's revivifying sacred seeds again. It's revivifying sacred seeds. Okay, I just got told we are at 6,673 downloads. Come on, guys, let's download that. Just 100. Hopefully, all of you, the rest of you, got it. Click on that link below. Last night we had 500. Let's go. I'm behind. I'm tired. I mean, what is this now? Which live stream is? I've been doing a live. Well, Monday night we did a Q&A with our Insiders Club. That was live. So this is my 5th live stream in a row, in addition to all our videos. So I'm getting a little punchy here, but it's turning into compost, the rot that we're seeing everywhere. And what that's doing is it's reawakening sacred seed. And so that's why we're seeing kind of this renaissance of like Christian nationalism, a renaissance of classical education, a renaissance of traditionalism, retraditionalization that's happening all over the place. There's a theorist I talk about a lot named Patiram Sorokin, and this was Sorokin's thesis. So Oswald Spengler argued that when you start to see a society like ours, that's the beginning of the end, and it collapses and it's dead. And he'll point to like the Roman Empire. The Roman Empire collapsed. The Roman Empire fell apart. Sorokin is a little bit more sophisticated. Sorokin said, no, it didn't. No, it didn't. At one level, it collapsed, but at another level, it renewed. But it renewed and reblossomed in a Christian expression. So we always go back to religion when our secular flirtations inevitably end up rotting and falling in on itself. And the reason for that is because what Patiram Sorokin called sensate, but we'll call it secular, just to make it easier. Any secular society is devoid of eternal, infinite resources of renewal that only religion can provide. So every civilization is founded on a religion, one of the great world religions. And then it's secular life, right? How do I balance my budget? How do I learn how to, trade to make a living? How do I get my kids through school? How do I, do I drive on the right side of the road, the left side of the road, blah, 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 serving on jury duty, whatever it is, right? The secular side of life. That is actually a material, tangible representation of spiritual life. So when the judge walked into the courtroom, we all stand historically because he held the Bible. It's not because of the judge, right? But it's because he carried the Bible where people were going to be sworn in. So that's why we stood. We stood for the Bible. So our courts are actually very much rooted traditionally in what's called canon law, medieval canon law, that was systematized in the 11th, 12th, and 13th century. And then that Catholic canon law and Byzantine canon law provided the foundation for a secular systematized law system. But eventually, as Sorokin noticed, secularized systems end up taking on a life of their own. It's almost inevitable. Just think, if you're familiar with your Bible, in the book of Judges, Israel has a revival, things are great, and then men forgot the Lord and started to do what was right in their own eyes. So they cut themselves off from the sacred source, and then they collapse. And then what does God do? Does he just say, all right, you're dead, you're gone, and never mind? No, he revives them. And he revives them through men calling on the name of the Lord again. That's the pattern in all civilizations. Look at the Soviet Union, most atheistic regime in the world, collapses in 1991. Now what's Russia? It is the center of the world of Russian Orthodoxy again. They only had 2,000 churches left after 70 years of communism ravaging it in 1991. Today, we're approaching 40 to 50,000, depends how you count. So, I mean, we're seeing not a single monastery was being used. They had 1,000 monasteries. Not a single monastery was being used anywhere in Russia 30 years ago. Today, all 1,000 are filled. So we're always going to go back to the religion, either religion that started our society, or it's going to get replaced, because we have to have sacred, we have to have the eternal source of renewal that can only come from the religiously sacred. So we're going to go back. Yes, we're going to see justice again. The question is how much are we willing as a population, an aggregate population, how much are we willing to endure of this obvious insanity? So we'll have to see. So there you go. There's a big answer, but that should do. Ron Dog, is all this going to end in civil war? It could. I mean, that's the concern. It certainly looked that way in the summer of 2020, when you had the riots in the cities, and then you had a mass number. I think the FBI was actually shocked at how big the Patriot militias really are. Right, they've doubled in size just in the last 10 years. Now there's 500 of them, over 500 of them, and how the Patriot militias basically took over a lot of rural areas like Coeur d'Alene in Idaho and all that. And so because the police were being told to stand down by city councils and mayors that were deliberately abdicating their law enforcement responsibilities, Patriot citizens stood up and started filling in that gap. And they made it very clear. They started going to the suburbs, and when the BLM rioters were starting to make their way in the suburbs, they were met by a lot of militias who basically told them, get out. That is most likely what could end up happening in the Civil War. I don't think it's military oriented. I think it is it's mob versus militia, with the suburbs being the contested area for control. So let's hope that just doesn't happen. But I mean, if the entire society breaks down, all bets are off. Lolly, good to see you again. Does President Trump have any ability to recoup his legal fees? Does he have any rights to sue for frivolous lawsuits? Good question. I don't know the answer to that. That's where we have to bring in someone like Robert Barnes. He would know. He knows the law back and forth. Ulf Peter Schutt. I know people rather wanted Trump to go to SCOTUS than show up to New York City to call their bluff. What is your take on that? What happened yesterday was gold with Trump, with that ad hoc Trump rally among the union workers in New York. That was just pure gold. So I loved that. Yes, it would have been good for him to go to that hearing. But again, I think he's just highlighting how petty this judge is being in this Bragg case against him. No, I think him staying back in New York and holding massive Trump rallies in downtown Manhattan's infinitely more effective. Maximilian Cunning's question: are Democrats redeemable? Seriously, if so, how? I don't know the answer to that question. I mean, if our society is redeemable, Democrats have to be redeemable. That's my prima facie response without having thought of it deeply enough. If our nation is redeemable, Democrats would have to be redeemable, because there were a lot of beautiful things about the Democratic Party. Remember, the Democratic Party was the populist party in the 19th and 20th centuries. So the Republicans were not. Yeah. I mean, certainly that's what RFK is trying to do. So we'll see. At this point, I can't see it, but that's because I'm fallen and sinful and limited and so forth. So we'll have to see on that. That's a very good question. Gang, remember, if you haven't already, make sure you click on that link below, download our app, our brand new app this is our answer to cancel culture. All you have to do is click on the link below or go to fight.turleytalks.com. YouTube has if you're just joining us, YouTube has demonetized us for a second time in a row. They've disabled our super chats. I mean, it's just a total blackout in monetization. This app is our answer. This app is a totally uncancelable platform that you can download completely free, or you can join one of the levels of support to help us out financially during this difficult time here. So click on that link below. Let's get to 7,000 downloads. That's what I want to see. We're at 6,700 now. Let's get to 7,000. And by the way, thanks to you guys, we're inside the top 200 entertainment apps that are being downloaded on the app store. So thank you guys. And by the way, that's on Turley Talks, if you like it. We have a drawing for all of you. Actually, why don't we do a drawing now? Should we do a drawing now? What do you guys? Do I get a yes? Or you show me the wheel? Should we do a drawing? I think we're at a good time to do a drawing here. If you download the app, we are going to do a drawing. Okay, if you download the app, what we're going to do is we're going to pull a name at random. If you download that app today, and whoever gets picked, you get office hours with Professor Steve. We're going to have a private online chat about anything you like. And it's my gift to you, just tell you how much I appreciate you and you're supporting us. So, all right, let's see who is first with office hours with Dr. Steve. I don't hear the ticka, 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 ticka. Yay, Coca-Cola. Coca-Cola 2. You have office hours with Dr. Steve. Go to freedom@turleytalks.com. That is freedom@turleytalks.com. Send us an email to claim your prize. All right, what other questions do we have? Also, if you've been signing up with, guys, let me know if we got some people signing up with our levels of support. I want to ring this bell, say your name and ring this bell in honor of you for standing up and being a freedom fighter with us. Okay, we're going to do that now. All right, let's ring it. There you go. That's for Lammy. Lammy, who's just joined our bronze level. RFJ just joined our silver level. Thank you, RFJ. Love the name. RJF. My gosh, I'm telling you guys, I'm tired. Dion T just joined our bronze level. Thank you, Dion. Thank you so much, guys. Indigo Babs 423 joined our bronze level. Thank you, Indigo Babs. Make sure you guys join us on Monday nights for our live Q&A. They're exclusive just for you guys. Tiger Mom Silver, join us, Silver. Like the name Tiger Mom. Are you Asian? That's what I think. I'll get in a whole thing with what my wife was. Steve B. Has joined our bronze. Thank you, Steve. Thank you so much. Powerhouse has joined silver. Thank you, Powerhouse. Great to have you aboard. DC has joined our gold. Thank you for joining our gold platform, DC. Very appreciated. Robert K. just joined bronze. Thank you, Robert K., for your support and your help. Christine just joined our silver. Thank you, Christine. Very appreciated. Jimmy J just joined our bronze level. Thank you, Jimmy J. Jay Thorne just joined our silver level. Guys, always remember, all of you are automatically entered into our Insiders Club. So I want to see you guys on Monday night for our live Q&A just for ourselves, backstage, right? Thank you, Jay Thorne. Marine just joined our bronze level. Thank you, Marine. Marathon just joined our bronze level. Thank you, Marathon. You're the best. Thanks, guys. Ooh, Battle Axe just joined our bronze. Thank you, Battle Axe. Awesome. Free Speech just joined platinum. I love it. I love it, Free Speech. Just joined our platinum platform. By the way, I think platinum is where you get Scotch with Steve. We have a very special monthly meetup on Zoom for Scotch with Steve. That's what we're calling it. It could be cigars with Steve. It could be soda with Steve. I don't care, right? I just want to see you and chat with you and get we talk about anything, but I also want to get your ideas for what good videos you want to see, what video topics you want to see, and what guests you'd like me to interview. So thank you for Free Speech for joining our platinum level. Americanism. I love that. Just joined our bronze level. Thank you, Americanism. Lammy just joined our bronze level. Thank you, Lammy. Very kind. Thank you, guys. Thank you so much for those levels of support. What do we got? What's our latest count here? How close are we to that 60 or 7,000? I want to see 7,000. Let us know. Do we have any more questions, guys? Ooh, Maximilian Cunnings. What are some alternative sacreds people might have besides faith, family, and freedom? Oh my! Well, that's good. So that's going to get into. Well, of course, Maximilian. Secularisms, scientific rationalism. Those are cheap substitute sacreds. The secular world has to operate in a sacred. It doesn't have a sustainable one. Its sacred is rooted in doubt and skepticism, which ends up ultimately eating itself. But of course, in Islam, it is the call of faith. There's no God but Allah, and Muhammad is his prophet. In Russian Orthodoxy, it is in the Russian Federation. It's basically a Slavophile. It's probably, when all is said and done, it's a third Rome sacred. So the idea is first you had Rome, then you had Constantinople, and now you have Moscow. And in many respects, that whole idea of the third Rome, that true Christianity is the gift that God has given to Russia to be caretakers of, is very deep in the Russian soul. Even if they don't go to church, there's still a sense that they are sort of the people of the new Rome, as it were. Hinduism is Brahman, the idea of the infinite, the eternal oneness of all things. So generally, they tend to be anti-dualist. They don't see like a heaven-earth dichotomy, though there is a creator-creation distinction. Though there are forms of Hinduism that do argue for that, but generally their view is Brahman. In China today, more and more it is what they would call, let's see if I remember, Tianxia. Tianxia is the idea of the mandate of heaven, and that the special harmonious order that allows for the maximum number of people to flourish is a gift that's been given to China from heaven itself. And that's embodied in Confucianism. In Japan, it's Shinto, no question about that. And then Shinto has a theology of harmony and order that the Japanese act out in everything. And so those would be I think I've got what I cover: Christianity, Islam, Buddhism. So Sri Lanka, Myanmar, I guess I should say, would be the Four Noble Truths of Buddhism. That is their sacred, their absolute, their unquestionable, that gives birth to the Eightfold Path. Shintoism, Confucianism, Hinduism. Yeah, I think we got a lot of them. Those are going to be more and more decisive factors in international relations and political order around the world, where geopolitics starts transforming into theopolitics. Oh, I just got it. We're about 6,800. Oh, come on, guys. Download. Share, if you would, fight.turleytalks.com with all friends and family, patriots in your life. Fight.turleytalks.com. Just tell them, hey, it's a free download. Download it. The more the merrier. The more the stronger we are. So let's get to that 7,000. Ron Dog, we'll have another free giveaway in a moment too. Ron Dog, can Trump declare an emergency and arrest all these people for treason? Good question. That is definitely what they are scared to death of. This is why the Democrats cannot allow Trump to win. If he wins, they honestly believe they're going to get rounded up. They are deathly afraid existentially of what will happen to them if he wins. So that's what they're concerned about, that he could do something akin to that. Can he? I don't know. I'm assuming. I mean, it was FDR. Look what he did with Japanese citizens during World War II, putting them in concentration camps, for heaven's sakes. Maybe we have laws now to make sure that doesn't happen again, but he'll go full animal one way or the other. That's for sure. Lolly, is there any way for a president to compel states to fix election issues or ID requirements without federal takeover of elections? The power is all within the states. Yes. Ban Dominion. Okay. So, let's go the opposite. Dominion is not doing well, just so you know. I mean, there's a court case that's going on right now in Georgia. We're still waiting on this judge to rule. It's been months now. I don't know why she's taking so long, but where Dominion machines were shown to be very faulty. That's the report. That's the readout that came out of the court there. So Dominion's not doing well, and a lot of counties are going to paper only ballots. They see the problem with electronic machines that are hooked up to the internet, and it is a security problem. If it's a security problem, then it's a civil rights problem, because then you're not having your vote counted the way you should. All the power is within the states, yes, for voting. So it's actually in the state legislatures. Even governors don't have that power. This is why I do not like secretaries of state having the power that they do, because secretaries of state basically come under the executive. They come under the executive branch. They can't make laws. Right. So they come under the executive branch, but the sole plenary authority for deciding all matters regarding elections are with state legislators and legislatures. Right. So it is. Yes, it is the state. And no, I don't think, apart from a federal takeover of elections, no, the elections are state run. Now it's both a blessing and a curse. That's the best. It's the best guard. It's the best guardian, the best bulwark against Nancy Pelosi trying to impose permanent 2020 election conditions on all states. It would have gone down in flames with the Supreme Court, but it could happen one day. And so I think having states being able to regulate their own elections is good, but it does run into very strange and bizarre situations, like with California, or just the insanity that happened with the mail-in voting in 2020. I mean, Ken Paxton sued, if I recall, was it Wisconsin or a bunch of states, Pennsylvania, Georgia, basically sued them by saying that because their practices were so painfully, obviously pathetic, that they were disenfranchising Texas voters. Because had they run their elections right, Trump very well could have won. And that's what Texas voters wanted. The argument got thrown out because they didn't have standing. But anyway, there you go. Yeah, it's both a strength and a weakness for our country, because you can have such divergent ways and discrepant ways of doing election that it could make so many in the nation feel disenfranchised. So a couple more questions. We'll do another drawing, and then I think we're going to wrap it up so Dr. Steve could take a nap here. Ugh. Do you think, let's see, Vincent, do you think these Democrats need to be held in a military tribunal for their treason? Oh, well, that will be for Trump to decide. But whatever it is, I think there needs to be repercussions. This is exactly what we're seeing in Arizona. And this is exactly what I argued when they raided Trump's Mar-a-Lago. The Republicans had better step up and push back against this weaponized legalism, or it's going to start to be used against them in mass. I mean, there were even Democrats talking that every single senator and representative that raised concerns about the legitimacy of electors and the way elections were done in Wisconsin and Michigan and Pennsylvania and Georgia and Arizona, that they should be impeached, that they should be taken out. So we're talking people like Ted Cruz, right? And Josh Hawley and so forth. So this is insane. They don't know. Jordan Peterson said it well. We live in a time where everyone knows the far right. They know what the far right is, right? And what they do is they define it as it's racism. It's not, it's nativism. It's tribalism. It's this white supremacist Christian national. That's far right. And what Peterson always asks is, okay, but where does the left go too far? Where's the far left? Where is it? And you'll find commentators, mainstream legacy media commentators, have a very hard time answering that question. The left cannot go too far. You can never be canceled for being too woke. You just simply can't. So we live at a time where there are clear boundaries for right, but there's no boundaries for the left. So there's literally no boundary to what they will do to Republicans if they find them to be weak, because they only operate in terms of these power discrepancies, right? In terms of the oppressor and the oppressed. So the only way you can have a just society is if you are in the position, you, the leftist, is in a position of the oppressor. If you have the power, that's the only way. Justice is ultimately power. And so in the end, the Republicans are going to have to push back one way or the other. If it's a military tribunal, so be it. One way or the other, they're going to have to push back to make this Democrat legalized warfare, weaponized legalism, hurt them. Maximilian, what are the sacreds held by the founding fathers? I don't know if there's one. That's good. A lot of them were most of them were confessional Christians. So it would be Christianity. And they would see the basic tenets of Christianity rooted in the resurrection, the death and transformative death and the resurrection of Christ. You have deists, but even the deists like Ben Franklin are radically influenced by Christianity. These aren't Aristotelian deists. These are deists that have been, these are basically it's better to think of them as decaffeinated Christians in many respects. So I would say it's fundamentally Christianity. They did believe in that golden triangle freedom. I don't know if that's so much as sacred as much as it's rooted in a Christian conception of the human person, which believed that if you want to be truly free, you had to tap into a virtue tradition. They did not believe freedom was innate to the person. They saw the person as inherently flawed and fallen. That's why we have the balance of power. If you put too much power in one chamber, it's gonna suck all of it up by itself. Absolute power corrupts absolutely. They recognize that because they recognize a human person was flawed, and that's their Christianity. And so I think though that they recognize that the human person needed a virtue tradition. But if you're going to have a virtue tradition, you had to have a religion, you had to have a faith tradition. But if you're going to have a true faith tradition, you had to be free, because coerced faith was not true faith. But in order to be free, you had to be virtuous. In order to be virtuous, you had to be religious. In order to be religious, you had to be free, which needed virtue, which needed religion, which needed freedom. So that's the golden triangle of freedom, where freedom, religion, and virtue all tie in together. And I think that does flow very much out of an overtly Christian sacred, or simply a sort of monotheist sacred that may not be able to be articulated in terms of the nature of God himself, but certainly a recognition that the temporal, spatial, material world requires an eternal reality for its intelligibility. Lolly, speaking of secular life getting hard, people run to religion. Have you seen the study where they found a big uptick in church attendance, church service attendance? I've seen studies showing upticks in it. Even in Britain, they're showing a huge uptick with cathedral attendance, interestingly enough. So I've not seen the latest study. So send it over to us if you have it. It's support@turleytalks.com. At what point do you believe civil war would be justified in the Republican minds as a larger group? I don't see it beyond defense. I don't see it as offensive. I see it as defensive. Because red states and red counties are doing very, very well. Remember, the vast majority of counties in the country are red. It's about 2,500 counties. There's only about 400 or so counties that are blue. So the vast majority of red counties and red states are flourishing. They're flourishing economically. They're flourishing demographically. They're having kids. There's a massive fertility advantage, massive fertility discrepancy between conservatives and liberals. They're flourishing in education. They're flourishing, just in terms of population relocations. So they're doing very, very well. I don't see them pushing an offensive war. I would see it as defensive, and that's where the scenario of sort of 2020 was, where cities go insane, they go nuts, and then they decide to come in and try to take over, say, suburbs or so forth, and particularly rural areas, and their militias come out and say, no way, not going to happen. All right, I think we got one more question, and we'll do our last giveaway. Galm 259. We have to be careful of using the system on anyone at any level. At no point in history has the government given back anything we've allowed them to have. It will always turn on us. Yeah. If you're talking about the system, yeah, you got to be a little careful with that, though, because the system can collapse, right? Like the Soviet Union or Eastern Europe, right? The system could collapse, and you can get a whole different system. But generally speaking, what you just said was right. Yes, that's the general rule. If they acquire new powers, they do not give them up. What did Ronald Reagan say? The closest thing to eternal life on earth is a government program, right? So yeah, so we do have to be wise and careful in terms of how we our counter-revolution, as it were, of how we push back. All right, come on, let's do one last drawing. Remember, we got office hours with Dr. Steve. Those of you who downloaded our app, you're now going to be enrolled in this randomizer here, and one name will be picked out, and you get office hours with Dr. Steve. We're going to have a private one-on-one online meeting together. And so my next student for office hours is... there we go. I like that. It is T. Grant's dad. There you go, T. Grant's dad. T. Grant's dad. Contact us at liberty@turleytalks.com. That's liberty. No, freedom. Forgive me. Freedom@turleytalks.com. Freedom. Our show producers went, it's freedom. Freedom@turleytalks.com to claim your prize. It would be great to meet you. Everyone, thank you so much for all the blessings you've been to us all week long and downloading this app. How close are we to 7,000, guys? Are we almost there? Hopefully everybody watching now has the app or you've accessed the app in some way. Remember, if you have any issues, just send us a note at support@turleytalks.com, support@turleytalks.com. Oh, just missed it. We're about 6,900. All right. Well, we'll let the people watch the live stream later on, and I'm sure we'll be at 7,000 easily, probably by mid-afternoon. Gang, from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much for all your support. Please share fight.turleytalks.com with all the patriots in your life. Have as many people as we can to download this app. Like I said, you never know what's going to happen. It could be like I played for you on Tuesday night. Roseanne Barr, someone like Roseanne Barr can walk up to me and say, Dr. Turley, I love you. She's a fan on this channel. You never know where and this app, whose hands it'll end up. So thank you, gang, for all your support and love throughout the week, your encouragement. It means more than you ever know. God bless. Have a wonderful weekend. We'll see you.